Imagine you're looking for a sample for your next beat. You're digging, you're listening, and you're not entirely sure what kind of a beat you want to make. You just know you're looking for something that's going to inspire you. And then you come across a sample that actually sounds really good. But then there's this one part where the vibe changes up a little bit, the instruments drop out, all of a sudden everything starts going crazy. And now you've gone from, I'm going to try to do something with this sample, to now I got the ugly face, so I have to do something with the sample. Well, today I'm going to break down how you can make your own epic soulful sample that has that exact same vibe. Now, even though this is a really short loop, I still think that it's a really good example of what I think are the 3 key elements that you need in order to make your music sound epic. And for this sample, I'm actually gonna work my way backwards and start with the 3rd element, which I call the payoff section. So first, we're gonna start off with these French horns. And for that sound, I went with Nexus, and I'm using the Hollywood Bank and the Epic Horns preset. Then I added this combination section of strings and flutes, and it's playing in a trill articulation. And for that one, I went with another Kontakt library. This time it was Project Sam, and the library was Lumina. I threw 2 layers of choirs on top of the strings. And for the first choir, I went with Omnisphere, and I used the Gospel Woe choirs. And then for the second choir, I went with the basic Logic ESX24 instrument, and I'm using the Gospel Ensemble preset. And now we really only have 3 more instruments to go. The first one is another brass preset that I got from Nexus, and I went with the Hollywood Sound Bank for this one. And as you can hear, it's really just there to add some depth and fill out the low end. The next sound I got from Kontakt, and it's an orchestral percussion sound called the timpani. Now, one of the things that I really like about the timpani is, like I said before, it's a percussion sound, so it'll add impact, especially in the low end.
That's what she said.
But the other really dope thing about it is it's a tuned percussion sound. So instead of using it like most people would use their percussion, even though you should still try to find ways to tune your percussion to whatever track you're making, these are really much more clearly in tune with whatever track you're making. And then the very last percussion instrument that I added was an orchestral cymbal. Now, you're probably wondering why I started off by showing you the big epic payoff section. It's because as big and epic as it already sounds on its own, it's not gonna have the same level of impact if it doesn't also have a contrasting setup section to balance it out. So I started off my setup section with this jazz guitar. And it was really just as simple as that. And as for the sound, I used Omnisphere, and I went with the jazz guitar octaves preset. Now for the next sound, I layered that guitar with a glockenspiel. Now, the main reason that I went with the glockenspiel for the next instrument is because if you listen to a lot of old school soul records, every once in a while, they'll throw in an instrument like a Glock or a Celeste or even a xylophone in order to accent the main melody or the main instrument in the song. And then for this one, I went with the basic Kontakt orchestral library. And as far as effects are concerned, I used the J37 just to add a little bit of saturation and warmth to it. So once I had that part of the melody down, my next step was to build on it by adding a counter melody. Now, one of the things that you might notice so far is I'm not really going crazy with effects. So for this guitar, I basically went with a preset from Omnisphere, which is this Strat muted guitar preset. On the second go around, I layered what you already heard with these pizzicato strings, and I basically have these pizzicato strings layering the muted Strat guitar. All right, so we have the big epic payoff section, and then we have the softer setup section for contrast. Now, the goal is to bring those 2 sections together with the transition section. And so for starters, I added another section of horns, but these are gonna be doing a walk up from the transition section to the payoff section. And for that sound, I went with Nexus, and I'm using the Hollywood Bank and the Epic Horns preset. I added these staccato strings that are kind of walking down. And for those, I went with Kontakt, and I used the Cinematic Strings Monster Staccato library. And then next up, I have another walk down, but this time I used some orchestral staccato brass. And for that, I went with another Kontakt library. This one was the Orchestral Essentials Brass Staccato. So now when you listen to that transition section just by itself, it sounds like something big is on the way. And as you're about to hear, it does a really good job of bringing the 2 contrasting sections together. All right, so that's it for this sample breakdown / tutorial. Let me know how I did in the comment section. And if you like this sample, it's called Trial by Fire, and I left the link for where you can get it down in the description. If you want 10 free royalty-free samples from me, I left the link for that in the description too. And if you want to learn how to make your own sample that's so good that it gets the attention of one of the biggest independent artists in the world, check out this video right here.